Family betrayal cuts deeper than any wound. When blood turns against blood, when trust shatters inside your own walls, that pain changes you forever. I never thought my son would steal my home from under my feet. That night changed everything. Standing barefoot in my dark hallway, hand pressed against the wall for balance, I heard words that made my heart stop. My own child plotting to throw me away like yesterday's trash. For money, for freedom, for her. If you've ever felt that cold knife of betrayal twist in your gut, hit subscribe now. No one should face this alone. Also, download your ebook titled Suspense and Thriller Stories by clicking the link in the pinned comment. My name's Loretta Jenkins. For 42 years, I taught third grade at Westside Elementary in Atlanta. I'm 68 now, with arthritis in my knees, but a sharp mind that misses nothing. And that mind remembers every sacrifice I made for my only child. After my husband Raymond died suddenly, heart attack at 43, I raised Darnell alone in this brick bungalow on Magnolia Street. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a backyard where my boy learned to ride his bike. Nothing fancy, but filled with love. Every inch of this place holds our history. "Ray, what would you think of our son now?" I whispered one night, touching the empty pillow beside me. 25 years gone, and I still talk to my husband. I poured everything into Darnell, worked 2 jobs some years, clipped coupons until my fingers cramped, skipped new clothes for myself so he could have football cleats, never complained once. That's what mothers do. When he brought Tiana home 3 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. She had sharp edges, quick to criticize, slow to help, but I thought she'll soften with time. "Mama Loretta," she'd say, kissing my cheek with lips cold as marble, "you look tired today. You worked too hard in this big old house." I should have seen the calculation behind those eyes. Last year, when Darnell lost his job at Wilson's Auto, I didn't hesitate. "Come stay with me until you get back on your feet," I offered. "The master bedroom is bigger. You two take that." I moved into the smaller room, giving them privacy, giving them space. That's what family does. We lift each other in hard times. But temporary stretch from weeks to months. I noticed them changing, small things at first. Tiana rearranged my furniture without asking, moved my favorite reading chair to the basement because it was outdated, thrust out photo albums during her cleaning, claiming they were collecting dust. My home didn't feel like mine anymore. Then came the questions, dropped casually over dinner. "Mama Loretta, have you seen how much houses in this neighborhood are selling for now? The Pattersons got nearly $500,000. Don't you get lonely in this big place? There's that nice senior community in Marietta with activities every day. All these stairs must be hard on your knees." Each comment landed like a pebble, small alone but piling up into something heavier. Darnell rarely joined these conversations. He just rubbed the back of his neck, his tell since childhood, when something made him uncomfortable, and changed the subject. I thought his silence meant respect. I was wrong. Property values in our neighborhood had tripled in the last decade. Developers circled like vultures, sending letters offering generous compensation for our homes. Young professionals wanted our tree-lined streets, our proximity to downtown. My neighbors, folks who watched our children grow up together, started selling one by one. "You could live like a queen on that money, Loretta," my neighbor Patricia said after selling her place at 30 years. "My condo has a pool and weekly bingo." But this wasn't just a house to me. This was where Raymond carried me over the threshold, where Darnell took his first steps, where I rebuilt my life after becoming a widow. These walls protected us through storms, both weather and life. "This house stays in the family," I always said. "It's Darnell's inheritance." Little did I know he wasn't patient enough to wait. The night I discovered the truth started ordinary enough. Friday evening, I'd spent the day volunteering at the community center, teaching seniors like myself how to use computers. My feet ached as I climbed the stairs to bed. That's when I heard them. Voices from the living room below thinking I was already asleep. "We have to make a move soon, Darnell." Tiana's voice had none of its usual honey. "The housing market won't stay this hot forever." I know. My son sounded tired, defeated. "Your mother's getting older. She had that fall last month. What if something worse happens? We'd be stuck here forever." My hand gripped the banister. What fall? I'd stumbled once unloading groceries, barely a stumble, and Tiana had acted like I'd broken a hip. "The nursing home I found is really nice. They have a garden. She'd be taken care of. And we finally have our own place with the money from this house. $400,000 minimum, maybe more. We could pay off our debt, start fresh. Don't you want that?" Silence stretched. I held my breath. "Yes," my son finally answered. "You're right. I'll talk to her next week about selling." "And if she says no?" Tiana pressed. Another pause. "Then we'll have to find another way." I stood frozen, blood rushing in my ears. The world tilted beneath my feet. My own child, my only child, planning to sell my home out from under my feet, scheming to lock me away in some facility. I backed away silently, tears blurring my vision. Somehow, I made it to my bedroom without making a sound. I sat on the edge of my bed, trembling. Every sacrifice, every late night worked, every penny saved to keep this roof over our heads meant nothing to him now. The betrayal burned like acid in my chest. How could he? How could he? I pressed a pillow to my face and screamed until my throat felt raw, making sure no sound escaped. Years of love and devotion meant less to my son than dollar signs in his wife's eyes. That night, sleep never came. Instead, a different feeling took root inside me, something harder, colder, and more determined than the warm-hearted teacher I'd always been. They thought I was just a sweet old lady they could push aside. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Morning came like a thief. Sleep had abandoned me, leaving only hollow space where trust once lived. The sunrise painted my bedroom walls gold, the same walls my son now planned to sell out from under me. "Don't let them see you broken," I whispered to myself, washing my face with cold water. My reflection looked older than yesterday. The betrayal had aged me overnight. I made breakfast as usual: scrambled eggs, grits, bacon. The scent filled the kitchen as Darnell and Tiana came downstairs. I smiled and served them plates, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. "You look tired, Mama," Darnell said, concern in his voice. "Just didn't sleep well," I replied, watching his face for guilt. There was none, only the practiced concern of someone playing a role. As they ate, I studied my son. The same hands that once reached for mine crossing streets now plotted behind my back. The mouth that said "I love you, Mama" now whispered plans to discard me. I flashed back to when Darnell was 7, running high fever after his tonsils came out. I'd slept in a hard hospital chair for 3 nights, cooling his forehead with damp cloths. The year his basketball team went to state championships, I'd worked double shifts to buy his uniform. The night he crashed Raymond's old car, I'd held him while he cried, telling him it was just metal, that he mattered more. All those years, all that love, and this was my repayment? No, I wouldn't confront them, not yet. Knowledge was power, and I needed more of it. After they left, Tiana to her clinic job, Darnell to another interview, I called my neighbor Miss Clarine. At 77, she'd been a paralegal for 40 years before retiring, sharp as a tack and twice as tough. "Child, get over here right now," she said when I told her what I'd heard, and bring those lemon squares you made last week. In her floral print living room, surrounded by photos of her late husband, I broke down. The tears I'd held back all night and morning came in waves. "Family ain't supposed to do this," I sobbed. "My own son." Miss Clarine handed me tissues. "Men get weak sometimes, child, especially when money and women are involved. But you're not weak, Loretta Jenkins, and you're not going down without a fight." She helped me form a plan. First, gather evidence. Second, protect my assets. Third, confront them with strength, not emotion. They expect you to be a sweet old lady. Show them you're a warrior instead. Back home, I began quietly searching. In Tiana's desk drawer, which she'd conveniently placed in what used to be my sewing room, I found brochures for Sunshine Meadows Assisted Living, where every sunset is golden. Inside, I discovered my name written on inquiry forms. They'd already called about availability, they'd already checked prices, they'd already begun the process of erasing me from my own home. Worse, I found a checklist in Tiana's handwriting. Get L to sign power of attorney. Check. Schedule mental evaluation, Dr. Morris? Check. Real estate assessment, pending. Talk to D about alternatives if she refuses. The last line chilled my blood. Alternatives? What exactly were they planning if I said no? The confrontation came 3 days later. I was watering my azaleas, Raymond's favorite flowers, when Darnell approached, hands in his pockets, nervous energy radiating from him. "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" I said, giving nothing away. "Mama, can we talk?" He glanced back at the house where Tiana watched from the window. "Inside?" At the kitchen table, where I'd taught him to write his name, where we'd celebrated every birthday, my son looked everywhere but at my eyes. "Tiana and I have been thinking," he started, rubbing the back of his neck, "about your future." "My future?" I repeated, voice neutral, though my heart raced. "You know, as you get older, this house is big, lots of maintenance. Those stairs aren't getting any easier on your knees." I poured tea, letting him squirm in silence. "We found this really nice place in Marietta, Sunshine Meadows. They have activities, nurses on staff, people your own age." "You mean a nursing home?" I said flatly. "Assisted living community," he corrected quickly. "Completely different. You'd have your own apartment, but with help nearby if needed." I sipped my tea. "And what would happen to my house?" His eyes flickered with what might have been shame. "Well, obviously we'd need to sell it, but that money would take care of you for years. You wouldn't have to worry about bills or maintenance or—" "No." The word fell between us like a stone. "No? This is my home, Darnell. I'm not selling it, and I'm not moving to any community." His expression hardened. "Mama, be reasonable. You're getting older. Just last month you had that fall." I stumbled, once, because Tiana left a box in the hallway. What if it happens again when nobody's home? What if you break a hip? What if you stopped pretending this is about my safety? I set my cup down with a click. This is about money, my house. His face flushed. "That's not fair." "Neither is plotting to ship me off so you can cash in on my property." His eyes widened. Caught. "Yes, I know. I heard you both discussing it. I found Tiana's brochures and checklists. I'm old, Darnell, not stupid." He stood abruptly. "You don't understand. We need this. We have debts. We need a fresh start." "Not at the expense of my home." His voice rose. "It's going to be mine anyway. The words hung in the air, ugly and raw. The truth, finally. "Get out of my kitchen," I whispered. He stormed out, slamming the door. After that day, the house became a war zone of cold silences and slammed doors. Tiana stopped pretending to be sweet. She'd bump into me, accidentally, or play her music loud when I was trying to sleep. Petty cruelties from a woman who thought victory was assured. Then the letter arrived. Official letterhead, formal language, cold facts that stopped my heart. Notice of competency evaluation, concerns raised regarding cognitive capacity, power of attorney proceedings initiated. They were trying to declare me incompetent, legally erase my right to make my own decisions about my own property. My hands trembled so badly I could barely read the document. According to the letter, family members had expressed concern about my failing memory and inability to manage daily affairs. A court date had already been set. A doctor I'd never met had already submitted preliminary findings claiming I showed signs consistent with early cognitive decline. It was all lies, fabrications, but with the right doctor in their pocket, perhaps through Tiana's clinic connections, they could make it stick. I called the law office listed on the letterhead. After being transferred 3 times, I reached a junior associate who seemed surprised by my clarity and questions. "Ma'am, according to our files, you've already signed consent forms for these proceedings." "I most certainly did not." "We have documentation with your signature from last month." Ice formed in my veins. They had forged my signature. This wasn't just manipulation, this was criminal. That evening, I confronted them both in the living room, waving the letter. "You think I'm too far gone to notice forgery? Too addled to recognize fraud?" Tiana stepped forward, voice honeyed with false concern. "Loretta, this is exactly why we're worried. These paranoid accusations, this agitation." "Stop it," I snapped. "Drop the act. I know what you're doing." Darnell looked uncomfortable. "Mama, we're trying to help." "By committing fraud? By stealing my house? That's not help, that's theft." Tiana's mask finally slipped. "You're being selfish. You don't need this big house. We have our whole lives ahead of us." "And mine is disposable?" I asked. "You had your chance. You lived your life. Now it's our turn." In that moment, looking into her cold eyes, I saw something I'd missed before. A calculated cruelty. This wasn't her first time targeting an older person. The precision of their plan, the forged documents, the legal maneuvering, it was too practiced, too smooth. "How many other old ladies have you done this to, Tiana?" I asked quietly. The flash of panic across her face told me everything. My son had married a predator, and I was her newest target. "We need to move fast," Miss Clarine said, her bifocals perched on her nose as she examined the letter. "They've already set things in motion legally." We sat at her dining room table, spread with legal documents and my evidence folder. The morning light caught the silver in her hair, making it look like a crown. "I've called my godson Jerome," she continued, "best elder law attorney in Atlanta. He's meeting us tomorrow." True to her word, the next day we sat in a sleek downtown office with Jerome Wilson, a serious man in his 50s who listened without interrupting as I laid out everything. The overheard conversations, the forged documents, the found brochures, the recorded conversations. "Mrs. Jenkins," he said when I finished, "what they're attempting is highly illegal, forgery, elder abuse, attempted fraud, but proving it will require evidence and strategy." "I've got evidence," I said, sliding my folder across his desk. "You provide the strategy." His eyebrows rose as he flipped through my materials. "You're thorough."
I taught third grade for 40 years. I know when someone's hiding something. We developed a three-part plan. First, get a comprehensive mental evaluation from my own trusted doctor to establish my competence. Second, secure my assets immediately. Third, gather more evidence against Tiana specifically. The fact that you're recording conversations without their knowledge is legally gray area, Jerome warned, but their forgery of legal documents is black and white criminal. We focus on that. My doctor of 20 years, Dr. Phillips, conducted a full cognitive assessment, declaring me sharp as ever, with no signs of memory impairment or cognitive decline. I had him document everything. Meanwhile, Jerome helped me file emergency injunctions, blocking any power of attorney proceedings, and flagging my property with legal protections against quick sale. But the most shocking discoveries came when Jerome's paralegal dug into Tiana's background. She's worked at 4 different medical clinics in 3 years, he told me, pushing a folder across the desk, each time leaving under questionable circumstances. The paralegal had found a pattern. In each clinic, Tiana had access to elderly patients' information, and in each location, at least one older patient had reported missing funds or suspicious legal changes shortly after interacting with her. She's never been charged, he explained, but there are complaints filed in Savannah and Birmingham. Same pattern. Elderly person with property suddenly changing wills or selling homes well under market value. My blood ran cold. She's done this before and gotten away with it, Jerome nodded. Until now. Back home, I maintained a careful facade of ignorance. I pretended not to notice Tiana's triumphant smirks when legal mail arrived. I acted confused when Darnell brought up Sunshine Meadows again. All the while, I was building my case. I placed small voice recorders around the house, one under the living room coffee table, another in the kitchen by their favorite spot. Legally questionable, Jerome reminded me, but potentially useful for understanding their next moves. What I captured chilled me to the bone. The lawyer says we're good to go, Tiana told Darnell one evening. Once the judge signs off on the competency ruling, we can list the house immediately. What if she fights it? My son's voice, concerned but not objecting. Tiana laughed. With what? She's just a confused old lady, according to Dr. Morris's report. I've already talked to my realtor friend. We can close within 30 days. And Mama? Sunshine Meadows has a bed ready. They owe me after I sent them 3 clients last year. 3 clients. 3 other elderly people she'd helped displace. The most damning evidence came when I recorded Tiana on the phone with Kevin, discussing the usual arrangement, where he would make the assessment say whatever we need for a cut of the proceeds. By the time our court date approached, I had assembled a devastating arsenal of evidence, not just against the scheme to take my house, but against Tiana's pattern of elder exploitation across multiple states. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly suspect, was that sweet, predictable Loretta Jenkins was about to unleash a legal firestorm that would destroy their entire plan. And I had one more move they'd never see coming.
Sunday dinner had always been sacred in our house. Even as the tension thickened and words became weapons, we maintained this one tradition. This particular Sunday, I woke early and spent hours cooking their favorites. My grandmother's fried chicken recipe, mac and cheese with the perfect crust, collard greens with ham hocks, and sweet potato pie. The table looked beautiful. I'd brought out the good china, the set Raymond and I received as wedding gifts. Crystal glasses sparkled under soft lighting. Fresh flowers from my garden cindered the table. "Wow, Mama, what's the occasion?" Darnell asked, eyeing the spread suspiciously. "Can't a mother cook for her family?"
I smiled, sweet as the tea I poured. Tiana entered, wearing the smug expression that had become her default. Looks delicious, Mama Loretta. You shouldn't have gone to all this trouble. Not with your condition. The way she emphasized condition made my fingers itch to slap her, but I just smiled wider. We ate with forced conversation. I asked about Darnell's job search. Tiana talked about patients at her clinic. Normal family dinner chat while a hurricane brewed beneath the surface. As I served dessert, I said casually, I have news to share. Their forks paused midair. I met with my lawyer last week, Jerome Wilson. Perhaps you've heard of him. He specializes in elder fraud cases. The color drained from Tiana's face. I've made some changes to my affairs, I continued, voice steady, as I slid papers from underneath the table runner. First, I've had a complete cognitive assessment with Dr. Phillips. He submitted his findings to the court, contradicting your bought-off Dr. Morris. Darnell shifted uncomfortably. Mama, I held up my hand. I'm not finished. I pushed the first document forward. This is a cease and desist order against your power of attorney proceedings. The forged documents have been flagged as fraudulent. Tiana stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're confused. Sit down. My voice cracked like a whip. Surprisingly, she obeyed. I slid the second document forward. This is the new deed to this house. I've transferred it to a family trust. I remain the primary trustee until my death. A trust? Darnell stammered. But the secondary trustee and sole beneficiary is my niece, Anaya. The bomb dropped. Anaya, Raymond's brother's daughter, had always been close to me, but had never gotten along with Darnell. They'd competed for attention as children. You gave my inheritance to Anaya? Darnell shouted, standing so quickly his chair toppled backward. Your inheritance? I laughed without humor. You forfeited that right when you tried to steal it before I was dead. Tiana's face twisted with rage. You can't do this. The court will never. The court already has, I said calmly. It was finalized yesterday. The room exploded into chaos. Tiana screamed accusations. Darnell paced, running hands through his hair, betrayal etched on his face. You choose Anaya over your own son? He demanded, voice breaking. I chose protection over theft. I chose respect over manipulation. You left me no choice, Darnell. His eyes filled with tears, whether from anger or remorse, I couldn't tell. You've never trusted me, have you? Even now you think the worst of me. No, I said quietly. I trusted you completely. That's why this hurt so much. Tiana grabbed her purse. This isn't over. You're just a vindictive old woman who... One more thing, I interrupted. The police would like to speak with you, Tiana. Something about a pattern of elder fraud across state lines. They're particularly interested in your friends in Savannah and Birmingham. Her face went slack with shock, then fear. What have you done? She whispered. What you taught me to do. Protect myself at all costs. As they stormed out, Darnell paused at the door, looking back at me with eyes that reminded me so much of his father's. For a moment, I saw my little boy again. Mama, he started. The authorities have everything, son. All the recordings, all the evidence. There's no stopping what comes next. The door slammed, rattling the family photos on the wall, frozen memories of happier times that now felt like lies. I sat alone at my beautiful table, surrounded by cooling food and shattered family bonds. wondering if justice would feel as hollow as victory. The police came 2 days later, not for me, but for Tiana. I watched from my porch as they led her to the cruiser, hands cuffed behind her back. My neighbors stood in their yards, whispering behind cupped hands. The sight brought me no joy, only a weary sense of rightness. Detective Harmon sat at my kitchen table afterward, taking my statement. A kind-eyed woman with silver streaks in her dark hair. "We've been building a case against Tiana Williams for almost a year," she explained. "Your evidence was the missing piece. Turns out, I wasn't just another target. I was one in a long line of elderly victims across 3 states. Tiana had perfected her method. Find vulnerable seniors with valuable property, insert herself into their lives through family connections or healthcare work, then systematically isolate and legally disempower them. 5 confirmed victims lost their homes. 3 ended up in facilities against their wishes. 1 died shortly after with suspicious changes to his will. The scale of it stunned me. And no one stopped her? Elder fraud is notoriously difficult to prosecute. Victims often don't report out of shame or fear, or they pass away before cases conclude. She squeezed my hand. "You didn't just save yourself, Mrs. Jenkins. You've potentially saved others." Darnell wasn't arrested. There wasn't enough evidence to charge him as a knowing accomplice rather than another manipulation victim, but the fallout crushed him nonetheless. His reputation in our community collapsed overnight. Friends stopped calling. The auto shop that was considering rehiring him rescinded their offer. He moved out the same week, finding a small apartment across town. I didn't help him pack. The space between us felt uncrossable. Tiana faced multiple felony charges: forgery, fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy. Her preliminary hearing revealed even more victims than initially suspected. The confident woman who'd planned to steal my home now sat small and defeated in courthouse footage on the evening news. Our neighborhood rallied around me. Miss Clarine organized a rotation of visitors so I wouldn't be alone. Church members brought casseroles and company. Former students, now grown with families of their own, stopped by with flowers and support. "We always knew you were tough, Mrs. Jenkins," said Tony, who'd been in my very first class and now worked as a principal himself. "You didn't take nonsense from us as kids, and you sure didn't take it now." I reinforced my home with new security, changed the locks, installed cameras. The physical safety was easy to establish. The emotional safety would take longer to rebuild. Nights were the hardest. The house felt too quiet, too empty. I'd find myself pausing outside Darnell's childhood bedroom, remembering the little boy who once ran to me for comfort after nightmares. Now, he was grown, the source of my nightmares instead of my solace. 3 months after Tiana's arrest, the doorbell rang on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Through the security camera, I saw him, Darnell, soaked and sorry-looking, holding no umbrella, as if he deserved the downpour. I almost didn't answer, almost let him stand there in the rain as payment for all the tears I'd shed. But something, mother's love, fool's hope, or simple curiosity, made me open the door. "Mama," he said, voice breaking. Water dripped from his jacket on my welcome mat. His eyes were red-rimmed and his shoulders slumped with the weight of consequences. The question hung between us. Could a mother's heart, once shattered by her child, ever truly mend?
"You look thin," I said, setting a mug of hot chocolate before him, the same comfort drink from his childhood fevers and teenage heartbreaks. Darnell sat at the kitchen table, still in his damp clothes, looking smaller than his 6-foot frame should allow.
The rain had stopped outside, but the storm between us remained. "I've been staying with Cousin Marcus," he said, warming his hands on the mug. "Started working at his moving company. It's not much, but it's honest work." I nodded, keeping space between us as I took the chair opposite, not the adjacent seat where a mother might normally sit close to her child. "I've been seeing a therapist," he continued when I didn't speak, "trying to understand how I let things get so twisted, how I almost," his voice cracked, "how I almost threw away my own mother for money." "And what have you learned?" I asked, my voice neutral despite the riot of emotions beneath. He looked up, eyes wet. "That I've been weak my whole life. That I let Tiana control me because I was afraid of standing on my own. That I've been looking for shortcuts instead of putting in the work." He swallowed hard. "That I betrayed the one person who never, ever gave up on me." The words hung in the air between us, raw and true. "Do you know what hurts the most?" I finally said. "Not the schemes or the lies. It's that you were willing to send me away, like I was a burden. After all the nights I held you through fevers, all the years I worked 2 jobs to keep food on this table, all the times I put you first." My voice broke. "You were willing to throw me away." "I know," he whispered, "and I'll regret that until the day I die." "Why did you do it, Darnell? Really? Was it just the money?" He was quiet for a long moment. "It started small. Tiana would make comments about how unfair it was that we struggled while you had this house. She'd point out how other people our age had their own homes, their own futures. Then she'd say things like, 'Your mother won't live forever,' and 'Wouldn't it be better to use that asset now when we need it?' It made sense when she said it. She made me believe we were entitled to it." "And the nursing home?" "She convinced me you'd be happier there, with activities, with care." He looked down. I knew it was wrong. Every time we talked about it, something inside me screamed to stop. But I was too much of a coward to stand up to her, too weak to do right by you. I studied my son's face, the lines of regret etched deeply now, the haunted look of someone facing their own moral failure. "The police say she's done this before, that I wasn't the first." He nodded miserably. "I found out after her arrest. She had a system. There were others before me, other families she infiltrated. I was just the latest fool who fell for her." Some knot inside me loosened slightly. Not enough to forgive, but enough to understand. My son had been both accomplice and victim in his own way. "What do you want from me now, Darnell?" "A chance," he said simply. "Not to move back in, not for money, just a chance to try to make amends, to be your son again, even though I don't deserve it." I took a deep breath. "I can't just pretend this never happened. I don't want you to. I need to earn back every ounce of trust I destroyed." I thought about it, really thought about it. The Bible talks about forgiveness 70 times 7, but it doesn't say anything about letting people keep hurting you. "There would be conditions," I said finally. "Non-negotiable." Hope flickered in his eyes. "Name them." "First, you stay in therapy. Work through why you were so easily led to betray family." He nodded. "Second, you find stable work and your own place to live. Prove you can stand on your own feet without taking from others." Another nod. "Third, you have no claim on this house, ever. It stays in the trust with Anaya as beneficiary. That doesn't change." This one clearly stung, but he accepted it. "Fourth, I continued. You rebuild relationships with the community you've hurt. Not just me, the neighbors who trusted you, the friends who believed in you. Yes, he agreed. All of it. And fifth, most important, you accept that trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild. You don't get to rush my healing to ease your guilt. Tears slid down his face. I understand. I don't know if we'll ever be close again, I said honestly. But you're my son, my only child. And if you're truly sorry, truly committed to change, then I'm willing to leave the door cracked open. He reached across the table, hand outstretched but not presumptuous enough to grab mine, an offering, not a demand. After a long moment, I placed my fingertips against his. Not a full embrace, but a beginning. Thank you, Mama, he whispered. I don't deserve this chance. No, I agreed. But love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. And I'm choosing to give you one last chance to be the man I raised you to be. The road ahead would be long. Trust doesn't mend overnight. But in that moment, with rain clouds clearing outside and tentative hope growing between us, I felt something I thought had died forever. The possibility of healing.
1 year later, my front porch rocking chair creaks gently as I watch fireflies rise from the grass. The evening air carries the scent of my roses, Raymond's favorite variety that still bloom faithfully each summer. So much has changed. So much remains the same. Darnell lives across town now in a modest apartment he can afford on his warehouse supervisor's salary. He comes for Sunday dinner each week, not as a resident, but as a guest who earns his welcome through consistent respect and honest conversation. He brings small gifts, a jar of homemade preserves from the farmer's market, a book he thought I'd enjoy, fresh flowers for the table, never extravagant, never trying to buy forgiveness, just small kindnesses that say, I see you, I value you. The trust holding my house remains ironclad. Anaya visits more often now, bringing her children who fill these old rooms with laughter again. She'll be a good steward of this home when I'm gone, which won't be for many years yet, God willing. Tiana received 8 years in prison after additional victims came forward. Sometimes I pray for her, though forgiveness comes easier some days than others. Miss Clarine and I have become something of neighborhood watchdogs, hosting community meetings about elder fraud protection. I speak at senior centers now, warning others about predators who target our generation. You turned your pain into purpose, my attorney Jerome told me recently. That's rare. The deepest change, though, is within me. The sweet elementary school teacher still exists, but alongside her stands a warrior who learned to protect what's hers, who discovered that kindness and boundaries aren't enemies, but partners. Darnell sees it too. You're different, Mama, he said last week as we worked in the garden together, a new Sunday tradition. How so? I asked, patting soil around a young tomato plant. Stronger. More yourself. He was right. Betrayal either breaks you or forces you to become unbreakable. I chose the latter. The hardest lesson wasn't about Tiana's manipulation or even Darnell's weakness. It was about the danger of loving without limits, of believing family bonds alone provide protection. Sometimes the greatest threat comes from those who know exactly where your heart is softest. Love remains the most powerful force in my life, but now it's balanced with wisdom, with boundaries, with self-protection. If you're watching this and facing your own family betrayal, know this: standing up for yourself
isn't selfish. It's survival. Your home, whether physical or emotional, deserves protection. Your voice deserves to be heard. Your boundaries deserve respect. Family should lift you up, not tear you down. And if they try to destroy what you've built, remember, you're allowed to fight back. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to choose yourself. I thought I'd lost everything that night I stood barefoot in my hallway, hearing my son plot against me. Instead, I found something invaluable, my own power. This house still stands, and so do I. Hit subscribe if you believe in standing up for yourself, even when it breaks your heart to do so. Our community understands what you're going through. Lastly, download your ebook titled Suspense and Thriller Stories by clicking the link in the pinned comment.